Welcome
Welcome to
to
the top shelf.
Todd. Of course, I just messed it all up. Go, go,
Ruiner of
go.
things.
Welcome to the Top Shelf Dusters podcast, as Ethan was saying. And this week we are joined by Jesse
It is All-Star Week and I am bored. Bring back NHL hockey now.
and by Brett.
I did not get the memo. We were supposed to wear our team's jersey today, but I am one of those 7 Panther fans. I promise.
We sent out a memo?
With it was a separate group chat. Sorry, Jesse.
Oh,
Wow.
sorry. Okay. We both got G'd out.
And joined with Cass.
Hey, all, another week the Bruins are undefeated, and tonight Cass runs on Duncan.
We're not sponsored by them.
And with Ethan.
Absolutely not.
Not yet.
Ethan was rightfully interrupted in his intro as he interrupted Amanda for her intro.
That's what you get, Ethan. You deserve it. Go to hell.
You know, always.
So we're going to start right up
So
with...
this.
Wow. Amanda's got
Yeah, having technical difficulties tonight.
So it seems. Go ahead, Amanda.
I'm just going by what Ethan said.
Welcome to the live stream, guys. You never know what's going to happen.
I'm just going off of what Henry said.
You go ahead, Jesse.
So we are going to start off with the NHL news. One of the big things that happened this week is that Columbus Blue Jackets forward Patrick Laine has entered the NHLPA Players Assistance Program to receive care for an undisclosed issue. He is out indefinitely. He released a statement on Instagram that said, quote, "After careful consideration and discussions with my support network and the team, I have recognized the importance of prioritizing my mental health and well-being. Hockey has been my passion in my life, but I have come to realize that in order to perform at my best, I must take this time to focus on myself." And he absolutely should. He's had a lot of injuries over the last couple seasons. He's been out with 2 thus far already. Guy needs to take care of himself, and I think this was a good move for him.
Yeah, say that you mentioned the injuries, and this guy just has gotten hurt. I feel like every single season ever since he went to Columbus. And, you know, that not only has to be wearing on him physically, obviously, after so many injuries, but clearly it's starting to wear on him mentally, not being able to play. You know, he's supposed to be this top player. He was picked 2nd overall, right? By Winnipeg. And, you know, so big expectations for this guy. He had a great first couple years with Winnipeg, but since then it's been a little bit more down. And yeah, so I think it's the right call for him to try to get things back on track.
Well, and also, I don't know how many of us have been paying attention to news this far back, but do you guys remember the whole thing about him playing Fortnite a lot?
Yes.
And that was an issue with the team. So I don't know. He obviously didn't disclose all the information, and the team didn't, and rightfully so. But one thing I will say about this is I tried to find a list, but I couldn't find one. This is the nth player that's done this, and we talked a few episodes back about players being dissatisfied with the program. But we've seen
Just the
multiple
one.
players go into it. Yeah, one player in particular.
Very vocal about it, though.
But we've seen a lot of players go into the program this season, and to me, that's a good sign for the program.
Right. Yeah, I mentioned that. I think it was 2 episodes ago. You know, I talked about how Scott Darling made these comments and literally told people not to go to it, but yet, like exactly what you said, Ethan, people continue to go to it. So I think that's a sign that Scott Darling's thing was a one-time thing, and most players are finding help through this program.
I think it's a big benefit for them. I also think it's going to be a big benefit, or at least I'm hopeful that it's going to be a big benefit for Patrick Laine. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, he suffered a concussion in October. He missed 9 games from that. He suffered an illness in mid-November. He missed 3 games from that. And now he is out with a broken clavicle that he suffered on December 14th against Toronto. Dude's only played 18 games thus far this season. 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points. and he just hasn't been what he was in Winnipeg and Columbus.
Yep,
So I'm hopeful
exactly.
that this is going to be a major benefit for him. I like the guy. I think he's a great player. I think he's got, aside from his video game taste, not good, Patrick, not good. Fortnite's terrible. But aside from that, I think that he's got a really great opportunity to make this a little bit better for himself in the NHL and for himself.
The good thing about the NHLPA is you see young kids and older vets using it too. It doesn't seem like it's a generational thing where like the older guys are like screw mental health or screw assistance like that. It seems like everyone's pretty open and about using it and about using it correctly in the way it's there for, which is nice to see too.
If only more people did that in the world, right?
If only people got paid while they were in the programs.
That too.
Fair enough.
That too. Some states need to get on top. So moving on from that, the Los Angeles Kings, another head coach that has been dismissed this season, have fired their head coach Todd McClellan and replaced him with interim head coach Jim Hiller for the rest of the season, as the team announced on Friday. McClellan became the 6th NHL coach to get fired this season. Edmonton Oilers, Minnesota Wild, St. Louis Blues, and New York Islanders have all made coaching changes thus far.
A couple things here. This came out after Rob Blake said he wasn't going to fire McClellan.
Nice.
Obviously, the team didn't do too well after that. Also, this means that Dave Hackstall is now the longest tenured coach in the Pacific Division, which is hilarious.
Oh my God, really?
Oh my gosh. Dude, that's
I-
crazy.
Yeah, no one saw this coming.
No one.
I made a comment in our chats about it being very abrupt, and it really felt abrupt. But the pro side of doing that is get ahead of it. If you see the problem possibly going into the future, get ahead of it now. If there's a coach, that's the other thing. Like, who are they thinking is going to replace him?
Rube.
That would be huge.
Oh man,
Gallant.
Crazy.
yeah.
We've mentioned
they've
Gallant
gotta have
multiple
something.
times. We've mentioned Gallant multiple times, and he still hasn't. There has been
This
zero
is
rumblings.
This is the one. This is the one.
So here's the thing. Like, I wonder if the Kings make this move if Edmonton sucks with a new coach. Like, Edmonton is
Yeah.
on fire right now, and LA probably feels the heat because they're dropping points left and right. Edmonton has gotten 30 straight points in 15 games or whatever it is. So I wonder if LA's like, hey, we need to light a fire under these guys' butts too to get them going and hope they get that spark with a new coaching change. And I'll tell you something, like, that team has young players. That team has vets. They should know how to play. And if anyone's going to get them to play the way they should, it's Craig Berube. His name was linked with Ottawa forever after DJ Smith got fired. That's another team I could see him. It's just, I'm kind of shocked that no one has picked him up yet, especially with the miracle that he worked out with the St. Louis Blues around this time that the St. Louis Blues won the Cup in 2019.
To bring it back to the Kings a little bit, I think Ethan mentioned this being abrupt, and that's because the Kings were one of the top teams early on this season. Cam Talbot was a big part of that. To be fair, he was playing way above expectations, but the Kings still aren't in that bad of a spot right now. Obviously, like Cass said, they are dropping points, but they're still not in a bad spot. 4th place in the Pacific, not too far behind Edmonton, and I know Edmonton's on a crazy heater right now, but eventually that should come to an end. But I think that basically what you said, Cass, is the right thing, that like they're trying to light a fire, see if firing the coach does the same thing. Though hopefully this doesn't become a trend for NHL teams. Like, we've been on a losing streak. Even if you've done well, you fire your coach in the hopes that you get on a hot streak.
We would have so much to talk about every week if
Oh my
that
God,
became
every
the
week.
case. Yeah, I mean it's kind of like what Cass was saying with what Edmonton's doing, and they've found a real streak. I mean, we can't deny that. They're still digging out of the hole, but they are proving that they can do it. It's almost like McClellan was caught in the crossfire of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't happening, would he still have the job?
Well, it's one of those things, like, they have 10 overtime losses. If they had 5 of those points, they'd be in the third spot in the Pacific.
Don't the Bruins
They
have a
had all
crap ton of
10.
overtime losses?
Bruins have 9. The team that has the most, does anyone want to guess?
Seattle.
No.
Oh,
Islanders?
The Islanders. Did you?
I had the standings thing. I had the standings
Okay.
thing up
Cheater.
because I was going to talk about it, so I cheated a little bit.
So it's interesting because the
That
Islanders
that
got
is
a new
cheating.
head coach.
That is cheating.
The Kings got a new head coach.
I was looking it up for a different reason.
So it's curious to see if that has anything to do with coaching changes too. Like if the GM looks at it and says, I know the LA Kings have struggled recently, and I know they've gone into overtime a lot, and they've left points on the board, which leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, obviously, it's the NHL. Every team is technically good, but you hope with a team like that. I really like the LA Kings. I think they're a good team. Their goaltending's questionable, but they're stacked with forwards. Their defense is solid. And I personally like Rob Blake, too. I don't know the new coaches from a hole in the wall, so I don't
Couldn't
know
tell
anything
you.
about him. Yeah, so he was an assistant before, though, right?
yeah, he was an assistant. I just looked it up in Long Island. He was also a head coach in the WHL, or I'm sorry, an assistant coach in the WHL for some teams over there. But aside from that, not much. He was an assistant coach for Detroit and for the Islanders.
We're going to
You
talk
think-
a little bit about Winnipeg a little bit more later in this podcast, but think about the PLD trade. It's looking worse and worse for LA and better
I was going to
for
mention
Winnipeg.
that. Yeah, I was going to mention that too. I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois hasn't really done much for the Los
No.
Angeles Kings. I mean, at all. He's kind of been a dud for them. And I think we've mentioned this a couple times too. And on top of that, a big issue for them is their goaltending. I mean, they don't really have solid goaltending to elevate them to the level that they were playing at in the beginning of the season. I don't know where it's Cam Talbot, right? I don't know where he came from for them in the beginning of the season. Well,
And he's went so many teams.
I know he was a Ranger too. I get that, but what I mean is like how the hell did he perform up to that standard in the beginning of the season and then have such a steady drop off? And it doesn't seem like the team's really too into themselves either. There was a quote about there was a quote from Anze Kopitar that he was like, the players are too invested into their own stats and their own points, and they don't care about the.
Oh, that was Doughty.
Oh, it was Doughty. It was one of them. Yeah.
On Kopitar night, I think.
And they were too invested in their own points and not worried about the team, and that's a big deal. I mean, if you're not going to be focused on the team aspect, it's a team game, right? I understand you want to pad your points and you want to have goals and assists and all that, but at the same time, if you're not winning games, then what the hell is the point of playing the game?
Real quick, while we're talking about PLD, let's revisit that trade. Who lost, Columbus Blue Jackets or the Winnipeg Jets? PLD,
Was that a 1-for-1 deal? Do you know?
It was Pierre-Luc Dubois to Winnipeg for Jack Roslovic and Patrick Laine.
Well,
Ooh.
given the fact
I think
that
they both
Roslovic
lost.
is at least playing, I'm giving it to Columbus a little bit, but
Well,
just barely.
but then Winnipeg flips
Winnipeg
it
gets
and gets
you're right.
Iafallo.
Mhm.
So I think
And,
Winnipeg wins that.
and Velarde.
And
Yeah.
Velarde. And they got more
You're
than
right.
that too, I think.
Actually, great point, Ethan. Yeah, never mind. It definitely is Winnipeg since they were able to flip it. If they didn't flip, then it's probably Columbus.
So
Yeah.
before we move on to the next subject, something I wanted to bring up is we talked about Patrick Waugh getting hired from the New York Islanders last week. What was his Canadian team's name? What team was he on? The OHL
The Laval
team?
Rockets? No, that's
Okay,
the AHL team. He was in
I
the
should've done my research.
QMJHL, right?
The Laval
The
Rockets
Ramparts?
used to be in the QJMHL. So
So anyway, I just wanted to bring up that one of his assistants from that junior team is now with him in Long Island as an assistant coach. So he's already
Good to
trying
know.
to pull his strings and getting his coaching staff.
I
for
think
his
head
junior
coaches
team
should
over there.
be able to have quite a voice in that. They have people they're the head coach, so they should be able to work with the people they want to work
You
with.
build
it's
your
kinda like
coaching
the-
staff, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like the GM when they take over. They kind of want their own coach, but that's all.
Yeah.
I don't know the guy's name. I don't know. It's just something to kind of point out.
One other thing, and then we'll go to the next topic. Because one of you mentioned that in the NHLPA program, you don't get paid. But then it kind of rang a bell because we talked about this. So I looked it up. You do get paid. Players
No,
continue to be paid.
I was saying it would be nice if the general public got paid if they went into a program.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's easier for an NHL player to admit they have a problem.
Because you know you're not going to
going
lose any
into a program
salary.
Yeah,
because you know
you get your money.
family's going to be fine if they're.
I gotcha.
Whereas someone in the real world, if you have to go into a program, your family's kind of effed.
Yeah.
With the finances and stuff like that while you go seek the help that you really need.
But on to the next topic. A couple trades that we're going to talk about. The first one is Montreal. They traded Sean Monahan to Winnipeg for a 2024 first round pick and a 2027 conditional third round pick.
And you got to talk about that condition. It is pretty funny.
Go for it.
So the condition for this third pick is the only way that the Canadians get the third pick is if the Jets win the Stanley Cup this season. And that's just such a funny condition to me. I don't know. It's like, I mean, the Jets winning the cup seems kind of crazy, but they could pull it out. Who knows? But still, like, I'm wondering what makes Montreal agree to that condition,
Because they got 2 first-round picks for a player that they took to dump his salary from another team. They got a first-round pick from Calgary to take Sean Monahan, and now they're getting a first-round pick to dump him off to another team. Talk about a fleecing by Kent Hughes. It's amazing. I love it, and I hate it because I'm in the Atlantic.
He's getting the draft picks ready. They're about to go into their full rebuild, and it could be scary.
This makes the Yzer plan look like garbage.
Anything else about that trade? We want to talk about the other one, the bigger one.
I know I already said it. I think it's hilarious he took a player on to get rid of the player for a team and got a first rounder out of it.
2 first-round picks out of a player. That's crazy.
Everyone thought was dead and old and like gonna essentially like Shea Weber or Brent Seabrook his way out of the league.
But when you look at Winnipeg, we have every move they've made as far as signings thus far. We have crapped on them over and over and over because it's like, what are you doing? Why are you re-signing older players that are fading in their career? And look at
where they are. Yep.
So right, it wasn't just us saying that. I feel like
that's true.
It was kind of consensus.
Yeah.
So does Kevin Shellen, whatever his name is, the GM at Winnipeg, that one, does he win GM of the year? He signed Scheifele. He signed.
Let's see where they finish this
trade. And if they get into the third round of the playoffs, we could be talking about GM of the year. I don't think they consider playoff success when they award those.
I think it's all regular trophies.
Don't they give that one out after the second round or something? They vote for that one
they're all
the second round?
Oh, maybe they do. I don't know, but
I still don't think
I feel like I remember hearing that.
We were talking about Jim Rutherford in Vancouver, which is a good segue, Ethan, if you want to take away that trade.
Well, one thing I was going to say about the awards is I think it's all regular season unless some awards are just regular season performance and then others aren't, which doesn't make sense, but maybe we could look that up. While I talk about this next trade, Calgary traded Elias Lindholm to Vancouver for a 2024 first round pick, conditional 2024 fourth round pick, Andrei Kuzmenko, Yoni Yermo, I think that's how you'd say that, and Hunter.
Say it.
Bruce Tekowitz.
Brewstowitz.
Brewstowitz?
That's how I would pronounce it.
Brewstowitz.
At BRZ, man.
It's them Slavic names, bro.
He's American though, so he's.
That's weird. The big part is Lindholm, and I think that's a great move for both teams. Honestly, I mean, the Canucks are getting a player that hasn't really performed too hot in Calgary, and I think this is going to be a good move for Andrei Kuzmenko as well, who has not performed up to the expectations that they had for him in this season. So I think that both sides are going to win this trade as we move forward in the season. Right now, obviously, it looks like that the Canucks kind of got a really good move, but I think that Kuzmenko is going to... I'm a big fan of the guy. Ever since he did what he did last season, he scored like 40 goals, and now he's got only 8 goals this season, not on par for what he was at. I think this is going to be a good move for both teams.
So actually, Jesse, I feel like Vancouver overpaid a little bit for Lindholm. I mean, the guy's not a point per game guy, and he is a bit of he plays a bit of a two-way role, but you're not getting like this guy's not going to become the first line center. Like he's probably going to be second line, maybe even third line. He and you're giving up two of your better prospects, a first round pick, and then a guy who still has room to grow, Kuzmenko. And I know Kuzmenko, you said it, he is having a down year, but this guy could still all of a sudden like just start ripping off goals. He was a 39 goal scorer last year, and that guy might still be there. So, and for Lindholm, this is this.
I think he is still there. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off real quick because I think the issue with Kuzmenko, I feel, is Rick Tocchet. I don't think he works well under Tocchet's system. He
wouldn't play him.
Well, yeah, and I just don't think they get along. That's a whole other issue too. And he was really, really quick and willing to waive his no trade clause. So I think that he wanted out of that team. If he wasn't performing up to the way that he wanted to perform, and he didn't get along with the coach, I believe, be gone. You know, do what you got to do.
I'll finish my point real quick because the last thing I was going to say is that Lindholm, this is the last year he's on a contract, and so if Vancouver can't re-sign him, I think Calgary's won this trade hands down. Now, if Vancouver wins a cup, maybe we're saying different, and if Lindholm doesn't resign. But overall, I think the Canucks overpaid a little bit for a rental player.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hardcore disagree on that one.
Okay.
The reason behind it is Vancouver is clearly in win now mode.
Sure.
That we already kind of knew that, and this just kind of solidifies that concept that they're in win now mode. The players that they gave up, while in long term, sure, it could bite them. If they really are just in win now mode, it doesn't matter. We already knew that Lindholm was on the trade block, so he was going somewhere, and Vancouver wanted that guy. As far as Lindholm's production in Calgary, though, look at the team around him. He was kind of their defensive core. They've already traded, I forget what his name was. I should have had it pulled up, but they've traded one D-man. They
Zadorov.
actually, I believe, yeah, that's it, Zadorov, his infamous, I want to go somewhere else, and went to Vancouver. They've got other defensive players that I've seen pop up in the trade talk, rumor boards, what his name was, like forums or whatever. They're in sell mode. Calgary is. So when you look at Lindholm's production there, he was the anchor and wasn't really allowed to play his game. He had to play defense. And like you guys mentioned, he's a two-way defensive player. So now that he's on a team that has a very good D-core, have a great goalie in Thatcher Demko, Lindholm can actually flourish more than he was in Calgary. If that all makes sense.
Now, here's another thing to think about is you're trading. This is a division trade. So, Ethan, you said it briefly, and even though you disagree with me, you said this might bite you back in the butt. And think about like potentially first round of the playoffs, Kuzmenko scores a game winner against Vancouver down the road, or you've got these
that
two.
Would be rough.
They're both third round prospects. Both I've looked at their scouting reports real quick on elite prospects. Both have pretty good high qualities. They're probably both going to be NHL players at some point. Maybe not all stars, but they'll be NHL players. So I don't know. I just feel like it and I think you did say this, like if Vancouver does win it all this year, then they probably could care less if that stuff happens down the road. But I think just looking at it right now, I'm only seeing that like down the road thing, and it feels like they overpaid a little bit. I mean,
that's a valid thing. That's a valid point. You also have to look down the road. If you're Lindholm, you enjoy Vancouver, you enjoy winning, you know, even if they don't win it all this year, they're going to win a lot this year, and he will enjoy that. So there's an opportunity to re-sign him. And then when you're looking at these things given up for him, you have to remove Kuzmenko from that thought process, because it doesn't matter what he does in the future with another team. He wasn't going to do it in Vancouver because of Jesse's
under
point.
Rick Tocchet.
He doesn't get along with the coach, and the coach is not going anywhere when the team's winning like they are. You know, so you have to kind of subtract that. So you look at Yermo and the last name. I'm not going to try again, even though Jesse said it.
BRZ.
A couple of things about this. First of all, we see Winnipeg, we see Vancouver make two kind of crazy, kind of big splash trades. Imagine how great that Western Conference final would be if it's those two teams. Because
Winnipeg versus Vancouver.
yeah, because like
Be great for Canada.
I mean, obviously you have Quinn Hughes, but like there's not a ton of like NHL star power on those two teams. Like, you got Pedersen, but you know what I mean? You don't have a Connor McDavid, you don't have a Sidney Crosby, you don't have an Ovechkin. But like those two teams, I could see freaking battling each other, and it would be amazing.
That's a 7-game series
know?
for sure.
Oh yeah. So that's the first thing. When I saw this trade came out, I was glued to my phone for probably the next hour. I thought it was going to be a sign and trade by how much Vancouver gave up.
Exactly.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I'm surprised that didn't.
Shocked.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that wasn't part of it because, like, I know the Bruins. There were rumors that the Bruins were going after this guy because they need the center depth. And I saw a couple like trade propositions, but like seeing what they gave up and comparing to what it would be for the Bruins, I would have not have done it ever. Like, obviously the Bruins are kind of the cupboard's kind of bare when it comes to first round draft picks, but for someone who's going to play,
you won in 2011.
correct.
Now,
Over
Cass,
Vancouver.
think about this. Last year, you guys made those two big trades for Tyler Bertuzzi and who's the other guy? Orlov, right? Oh,
Yes.
Hathaway? Yes. But
Yes.
anyways, you guys made those big splashes last year, and then you had the first round exit. And so they are like,
Rub it in,
look,
Brett. I get it. Yep. Mhm.
no.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, hey, look, those big splash trades didn't
Altered the
really
moon.
help out. They didn't alter it. So let's ride with our team that's done so well in the regular season instead of trying to give up all this stuff to do that. I mean, Florida kind of figured that out 2 years ago when we won the President's Trophy. We made those huge trades for Claude Giroux and Ben Sherratt. And then we couldn't make it past the second round after getting swept by the Lightning. And then the next season, we literally made no moves. I think we made an AHL trade, and that was it.
So let's take a step back from this, though. Like, if you look last year at the moves that the Bruins made with Orlov, Hathaway, and Bertuzzi, all three of those players gelled phenomenally with the team. It was a team letdown in the playoffs.
You think
I don't
so?
think Giroux.
Okay.
I don't think Giroux. I don't think and Sherratt. I don't think they gelled that well with the Panthers.
Giroux did really good for us,
You know what I
actually.
mean?
I don't know about Sherratt, but Giroux, like he was a big part of our first round series win against Washington there.
Now, here's what you have to remember with all of this, bringing this kind of back to this trade and
Yeah.
the trades we've talked about. It for us, almost all of us have won a cup within the last 30 years, right? So we all have a very different perspective.
94 was 30 years ago.
even though we're all hungry for a cup, we're not in the seat Canada's in, any Canadian team. And if you look at all these trades that have been happening, there's one thing we can all agree on. Canada,
Not
if
gonna
you're a
win?
team in
No.
Canada, you're either really chasing your success right now, Vancouver, Winnipeg, or you are really trying to start your rebuild now, Calgary,
Toronto.
Montreal. And then Toronto, I think they're also in the category of
No
chasing
man's
what they
land.
have.
Same thing with Edmonton. I mean, they made that Corey Perry signing. They did the big signing versus the big trade. But
But
I
they're
bet you they
hungry.
make a trade. I bet you they make a trade though.
They need to, though. They won 16 games in a row. Like, it's kind
I-
of like the Bruins. Like, if you don't need
Maybe
to make
like
the
a,
trade, why make the trade?
I don't
But
think
like
they do.
maybe like add defensive depth or something. Maybe
Well,
add a backup
kinda-
goaltender.
They need a backup goaltender. They would need a goaltender
Yeah.
over anybody. There's been a lot of talk about the goaltending too about this season. It's just been weird all over. So who would they go for?
And for Edmonton
Varlamov.
to put them in Varlamov, but
that's a-
New York
that's a good
Islanders don't
idea.
give him up. Edmonton's in that category as well as chasing what we have right now, and their big move. It wasn't a trade, but it was firing their head coach, and it paid off. That
Big
was a
time.
big time move. So
Ethan, you think if the Islanders aren't out of the playoff spot at trade deadline time, they don't look to move Varlamov?
mm,
I think they do. I mean, why not?
I think they're
Dude,
going to
they could
ask
get a lot
big.
because there's not a big goalie trade market. Varlamov would be
There
the
isn't.
piece.
They have to tame
Varlamov
their
is making
ask.
less than $3 million.
We'll get to that in the question of the week.
I think you just revealed someone's answer.
Well, that's how I know he was only making $3 million. But who wants to take the next injury news? Okay, I will.
It's Jesse's
this is how
guy.
much-
Jesse's guy.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, Fantilli?
Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean by that because he's not.
I
But
say he's Jai.
Adam Fantilli, rookie center of the Columbus Blue Jackets, is expected to miss 8 weeks with a lacerated calf. He suffered the injury in a game against the Seattle Kraken where Jared McCann hit him into the boards, and then his skate kind of connected with Fantilli's calf after the collision. Yeah. Fantilli was already near the Blue Jackets bench when he was able to skate on one leg before heading back to the dressing room. Jared McCann kind of stepped on Fantilli's leg. It seemed like it was a lot worse than it could have been. I thought that maybe he severed an ACL or something like that. I'm hopeful that he's going to be able to come back. It says he's going to be out for 8 weeks, but it's a big loss. I think Brett, you mentioned that it's all the first 3 picks of this season's draft are all out due to injury now.
Well, no. Leo Carlson is back.
Oh, that's right. He came back.
But remember, he missed all that time though. He's
Right.
been injured, so now all 3 picks at some point this year have been injured.
And Connor Bedard can only play for the All-Star Skills Competition. That's it. Was out
this
there
one,
slinging passes for one of the.
Wait, Brett, before you go in,
sure.
Before you go into your point, I just want to point out, Jesse, the reason why I wanted you to read it was it's your guy in McCann. Turn around. You've got a giant red eye staring at the back of your head.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I forgot that was there.
Sorry. Go ahead, Brett.
I was gonna say the only thing I was gonna say is that I feel like Blue Jackets fans shouldn't be too worried. Some injuries that happen, especially leg injuries, are very concerning for players who, especially when speed and skating is such a huge part of playing in the NHL. But since they're just saying it's a laceration, and like Jesse said, it wasn't like into the ACL or any important muscles, so I think it's like give him the 8 weeks to heal and recover. But I think he's gonna come back 100% once it's fully healed.
And if you're a Columbus fan, you don't have playoff hopes, right?
Right, just get another top pick.
Yeah. Like this season's
It's
over,
rebuild time.
essentially. Go find a Babcock to hire in the offseason, whatever.
Gerard
But
Gallant.
when I see skate laceration, did you guys ever see that Erik Karlsson injury when he got his Achilles?
Okay, moving
snapped?
on.
That was bad. That's
was
all it
bad,
reminded me
yeah.
of. So 8 weeks is really it could have been worse.
And it's crazy too because there's been a lot of conversation since what happened in October about these cut guards, and apparently Fantilli was wearing those Kevlar socks that protect you from those sorts of cuts. So imagine what it could have been without that protection.
Yeah. That would have been bad.
Could have been really bad. Yeah.
Moving on to our final NHL news topic. We're going to kind of go through these a little bit fast because we're a little behind on time. But Gary Bettman is now the longest tenured commissioner in all
Okay,
4
let's
major
go into this
sports.
right now because I want to hear why you're booing. If it's just the cool thing,
Because
to do,
you're
like
supposed
saying
to.
Nickelback sucks.
That's right.
Oh, it's
saying
because you're supposed to. I actually like Bettman.
I think he's done a phenomenal job, especially
agree.
now that the Olympics and this new tournament that we're going to talk about is coming
Don't
out.
jump the gun
I
too
think
much
he's
there,
done.
Cass.
That's why I didn't specify by name. I think he's done a phenomenal job. The outdoor games that he brings, whether it's the Heritage Classic, the Winter Classic, the Stadium Series, everyone wants to crap on the scheduling of the league, how you don't see your division rivals all the time, or they want to crap on the seeding in the playoffs. But I think he's brought hockey to Nashville. He's brought hockey to Vegas. He's brought hockey to Seattle, just to name a few places that have popped off and paid dividends to the NHL.
Vegas?
I think he's done a phenomenal job. That I've already said that, but yes.
Oh, I didn't hear Vegas. I'm sorry.
Vegas, Seattle, and Nashville are my 3 examples.
I heard Nashville and Seattle. I must have missed Vegas. Sorry.
Well, and
Anyway,
the thing is,
sorry to interrupt.
when you're the longest tenured commissioner in pro sports, so we're talking NHL, NBA,
North America.
MLB, NFL, it's a long time if you're going to get this accolade, and obviously we can all find different things that we disagreed with along the way, but that's going to just come with time. People make mistakes, but if you look at the overall picture, I think he's made the game a lot better.
I think the one
or
thing
at least kept it up.
the one thing Cass brought up that I'm is definitely a positive for Bettman is those outdoor games, how they become like a staple of the NHL. I mean, think about how much that stuff gets advertised to the general public. Jesse's got his Winter Classic jersey on. But yeah, the outdoor games are huge, and they sell out all these times that they do these outdoor games. They're the highest attended NHL games of the year because they get to do them in these outdoor stadiums. They don't have trouble selling these games. It's not like they're like half filled stadiums. Kind of like with the PDWHL, and I think they've done great, but they're doing like these games at the NHL arenas, and normally they're about like 50-60% full. And for the NHL with these outdoor games, they're doing much larger venues than they're used to because most stadiums are around 18,000, 17,000 seats, and these are like 50, 60,000 seat arenas, and they're selling out. So the outdoor games are probably, at least for me, that's probably the best thing Bettman's done for the league.
Well, it's one of those things too. Like it's a marquee event, at least
Yes.
for me. Like you get sick of seeing your family over for the holidays, and then they still come over January 1st to watch this game. Even though I'm really bullshit at the NHL for not announcing who the heck's playing next year, and if whoever said it in our Discord chat is right, and there's no Winter Classic, fire Bettman immediately because that's bullshit. I don't care who plays. It can be freaking
Florida Columbus.
Florida Columbus. I don't care. As long as as long as Huberdeau gets traded to Columbus and he scores the game-winning goal, that's fine by me. So,
Well, and that's something that we have to keep our eyes out for because my thinking was they didn't announce a 2025 Winter Classic because I thought maybe that's when they'd have this tournament that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But now it sounds like that's going to be at a different time of the year. So I don't know where that Winter Classic game is. So not only does he need to tie that loose end up, but I think we could all agree the biggest thing on his docket right now is the PR for the league. Lots of stuff has happened just within the last 6 months that it makes you raise questions on how much the NHL is looking internally at issues that could crop up as they've cropped up now. We'll get more to some of those bad ones later, but he did address, moving on from the NHL news, he did give like a state of the league. And so, did anyone have any comments about Bettman before I read this?
So before,
I just wanted to go ahead, Jesse.
Really quick, there was a statistic that I saw. Excuse me. There was a statistic that I saw regarding Bettman, and it said, quote, to put his 31 stretch into perspective, consider that Bettman's tenure has overseen 59% of all players in NHL history, 57% of coaches and general managers, 56% of games played, and 52% of goals scored. And I thought that was insane. I thought that was crazy as hell. Like, that's a majority of everything that's happened in NHL history happened during Bettman's tenure over these last 31 years.
Is because of the 32 teams, the 30 teams, because obviously whoever was the commissioner during the original 6, there's only so many games that are happening.
If I'm not mistaken, I think he's the first commissioner by name of the NHL too. I don't think there was a commissioner before him.
No?
If I'm not mistaken. Amanda, can you double check that?
Amanda's
a couple of the negatives is obviously the Olympic not being involved in the NHL in the last couple of years, and also the 2 work stoppages. But what did I want to say? As far as Bettman goes, I like I said, I'm a Bettman guy, even though
I just like to boo him. I like to boo him.
He likes it.
He loves it. He's like,
you boo Nickelback too. Yeah.
Hell yeah, I boo Nickelback, and I scream their songs when I hear them on the radio. Bettman, when Bettman was at
photograph.
Look at this photo. When Bettman was at the,
you guys are gonna get the copyright here now on the stream.
No, it's not good enough due to our singing. When Bettman was at the opening game for the Seattle Kraken and people were booing him, he's like, "Oh, you've already got it down. You're doing a good job." And I thought that was hilarious. He eats that stuff up. It's great.
So going back to the 2025 Winter Classic, if they didn't announce it opening January 1st this year, and they didn't announce it during the All-Star break, it doesn't look good. I just want to say that.
We'll see.
We will see.
So to jump in real fast, Cass, you are right. Bettman is the first appointed NHL commissioner. There were 5 presidents, like NHL presidents, before him.
That
shakalaka.
makes it even better.
That's crazy.
So okay, back to this state of the league that he gave during the All-Star weekend. So he made a couple remarks on multiple topics that have been cropping up throughout the season. The first one is his remarks on the Arizona arena situation. What he did say is Alex Morello told me he was certain he will get this done. I am hopeful and reasonably confident he's going to do what he says. So just kind of touched on it. He doesn't seem too worried about it. I don't know that he's ever really seemed too worried about it. But he did at least address that. And one thing I do want to say about this is the Arizona Coyotes tweeted out months ago that they had something about the arena they were going to talk about and then just never said anything.
And
so
radio silence. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. He
Did
did make some. Oh,
Did you see
So
today
before you
what
jump
they
in, I
said?
want to talk about
Did you see what today what they
yeah.
said?
They're
So
looking
they
at what
go ahead.
they're looking at land trusts, right?
Yeah, so they announced today that they're moving forward with a plan to buy state trust land in North Phoenix. So, and that was announced this morning, literally less than 24 hours after the comments that Gary Bettman made, after the comments that NHLPA Executive Director Marty Walsh made, because he said that he's extremely disappointed with the Coyotes organization as a whole. So here's hoping that that's going to happen. And the reason why Marty Walsh said that, he said, that senior members of the Phoenix or the Arizona Coyotes organization won't even speak with the NHLPA about the conditions for the players there. So there was it seems like the NHL and or at least the NHLPA is done with the situation in Arizona. Walsh said that how long do you have to wait to get a home? They're playing in a college arena and they're the second tenant in that arena. This is not a way to run a business. NHL players don't want that.
that's fair.
Yeah. So to further on what Jesse said about Marty Walsh, he said he was he talked to the ownership group and they've refused to engage with the union on numerous fronts, and they won't even discuss player concerns, and it's been long enough to find an arena, just like he said. Meanwhile, after Bettman made those comments that he was fairly certain they would get the arena situation done, Arizona took that and retweeted it saying, "We are fully committed to Arizona and hope to share exciting news with all of you soon. Arizona is home and the future is incredibly bright here." And it'll be another 3 months before we hear from them again.
I'm going to play both sides here. So I'm going to contradict
Wow,
myself.
surprise,
but
surprise.
on one hand, I think it's a little ridiculous to think that, oh, you've had enough time to figure out an arena thing. They've been in Mullet Arena for now 1.5 seasons. The obvious choice, if you want a fast arena home to just slot into, it would be the Phoenix Suns. But clearly the Phoenix Suns owner does not want that. So you can't actually use that arena. So at this point, you're looking at building an arena. Building an arena will take longer than 1.5 seasons. I'm sorry.
Right.
It just will.
Right, I understand that, but there's been zero indication that they even have the land to build an arena on.
And that's the other side where I'm going to contradict myself. It sounds like the Arizona Coyotes organization is stringing this along, as in like they've procrastinated this or haven't seen what they wanted to see happen to go forward. And it's just kind of like, give us 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes.
Give me a second.
So,
correct me if I'm wrong. This is the second year they're playing at Mullet, right?
Yes.
Third?
So,
Second? Okay.
so
halfway
I
through.
mean,
Sorry.
assuming construction started today, which it ain't, they wouldn't be ready for another 3 seasons. There's no way. You know, as someone with a construction background, you have to,
To my
Depends
understanding, the expectation of them being in Mullet Arena was for 5 seasons, and I thought that was going to be it. That's what I remember from the beginning of this, when we were all making fun of them playing in a college arena. But they haven't even broken into the ground. Nothing's happened in that regard.
They don't even have ground to break into.
Right, exactly. So what the hell is going on there?
Let's say it is the 3 years Cass is saying it would take for an arena to actually be constructed, right? They still have the rest of this season to figure out the land. So as far as the NHL side making those comments about being frustrated and Arizona's not really communicating with us, blah, 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 blah. If the original plan was 5 seasons then they still have half the season to go before they have to do something. And then you're in mullet for 5 seasons.
The other thing is, imagine being another Pagula or Jeremy Jacobs or another owner who has to share your profits with this team who's only putting 5,000 asses in a seat every night that you have a home game. Like there is a certain amount. There is a certain amount of profit sharing between the owners. That's where they get most of their money from, is the butts in the seat, concessions, stuff like that. I'd be mad. Like,
but if this was year 5,
imagine Seattle paying $1 billion expansion fee and having to share their profits after they dished out $1 billion with a team that plays in a college arena.
But they were all okay with it.
I want to correct myself.
They don't have a choice.
They have a lease to play in Mullet Arena for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So,
next
disregard
season.
everything I'm saying.
So that's on me. That's my bad. But at the same time, like, this should have been taken care of in the beginning. I think they rode the Tempe vote a little too hard, honestly, because they were expecting that to go through, and it
should have went through.
The people didn't
went.
want it.
It's unbelievable.
If I'm Houston, I have an NHL-ready arena by next year, just in case.
Well,
Salt Lake City already has it.
Well, Salt Lake City.
Here we go. So he
Oh,
did make some comments about that. His comments on the Utah expansion was that there's no active pursuit of expansion, but beyond Utah, the league has received at least preliminary interest from Utah, Houston, Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Omaha.
Omaha's the weird one for me. Omaha's such a weird one.
Who the hell lives in Nebraska?
Peyton Manning,
Corn.
Omaha.
So I mean, Utah seems like it would be the scapegoat if Arizona fell through.
Notice
Same
not
time
one
zone.
of those cities
Atlanta's
is a Canadian team
hard though.
or city. Not one of those cities is Canadian.
Never heard of Houston, Quebec?
Never gonna happen in Quebec City, boys. Never, ever, ever happening.
And then moving on to the last little bit of his state of the league, he did make some comments about Corey Perry and all that went down in Chicago. He did mention that there was a grievance filed initially for the contract termination from Corey Perry and his lawyers. And so I guess from his comments, it sounded like Corey Perry was going to try that, but then it was pulled back. So I don't know why he talked about it, but
so they actually gave them an extension to do that. The deadline to do that was in late January, 60 days after the termination, and NHLPA director Marty Walsh said that deadline was extended for them to do that. So it sounds like they're still going to try and file that grievance, or they're going to try and figure out a way to talk to Chicago and see if something can happen there.
I mean, he went from making $4 million to $775K or something like that. So I don't blame him, even though he's loaded. I mean, money's money.
Did Chicago have to? What they have? Does he get? Did that?
His contract got terminated.
So the contract terminated? So he's not getting paid that anymore. It's not like they.
That's why he wants to file the grievance.
It's not like a buyout. Like with a buyout, those players don't get paid throughout it. His contract was terminated.
Right.
He was put on unconditional waivers for purpose of contract termination.
Yeah. So to stay in line with that kind of topic, let's move on. Just an update on the latest 2018 Team Canada World Junior Championship case. I hate that WJC. So Bettman did talk about this, and I'm just going to kind of read through the comments real quick, and then we can discuss. So Gary Bettman on 2018 WJC incident. I've used the words abhorrent, horrific, and unacceptable for these acts, and these words continue to apply. We have not received official confirmation yet from London Police of indictments. At this stage, the most responsible and prudent thing to do is wait for judicial proceedings. I think it's important for people to understand what happened is not typical of NHL players. These players were not playing in the NHL at the time of this incident. This is not representative of what takes place in our game. We want people to know our game is inclusive, welcoming, and safe. As far as the 5 players, they are not with their teams and are free agents. They either don't have contracts or their contracts will expire after the season. And if I were them, I would focus on defending themselves if charges come down. Bettman then on if teams will be able to terminate the contract of a player being charged. He said timing is irrelevant. They'll be without a contract after this season. In order to terminate a contract successfully, you need to prove certain things. And then on suspending the charged players without pay, I don't think that's necessary. The fact that they're away from their teams and not playing, I'm comfortable with. They've been paid the bulk of their salary for the year anyway. And their concern is, the NHL's concern is to get this right. And then Daly, he's president of the
Deputy Commissioner?
Deputy Commissioner,
yes.
He did have some comments as well. He said, teams were less informed than we were. They had no access to reports. Only things they may have known were what players told them. So a lot to unpack there. I think the biggest red alarm bell is him kind of dodging this whole thing about their contracts. Like, yes, some don't have contracts. Some, their contracts are expiring after this season. So why should they still get paid even if they've gotten the bulk of their salary? That's a big
I find it mighty ironic / coincidental that everyone was on a expiring contract at the end of the season.
That is crazy.
Like it's kind of wild that it's so convenient for Gary Bettman not to have to address next year with all these players because technically, well, one of them is already overseas playing with
That's
all the KHL swag. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised like a Carter Hart or a Michael McLeod didn't have a contract extended through the rest of this year, past this year.
So here's something I want to bring up with this, and it's not directly related to the contracts, but the fact that they expire, and who knows how long this court case stuff will go on. But
and I do. Let me just interject this here.
Sure.
One thing I did read is a lot of people are anticipating this court proceeding to happen as far out as 2026. So that's not like for sure, but that's kind of the date.
Right, a long time.
Of. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, so say the court case goes on and they all these guys are free agents. Say, and who knows if this will happen? I don't know, obviously. But say they're all found not guilty. And this kind of stuff has happened before where a player's found not guilty of a charge, but then they don't get signed by the league because of all the PR and the media stuff. Do you guys anticipate that same kind of thing happening? I mean, the biggest talent out of this group of players is Carter Hart. So it would be crazy to see this guy potentially, and if he gets charged guilty, completely different ballgame. So only in this scenario I'm talking about is if they get charged not guilty and Carter Hart's not signed to a contract just because of media stuff. Just think about how crazy that would be. Or do you guys see potentially them being signed if they're found not guilty?
If they're found not guilty, I could see them coming back into the league, no problem.
Okay.
I mean, I think it would be an injustice to them if they are innocent. If they are found innocent, it would be an injustice to them to not allow them to play in the league again. I think
now innocent, not settle out of court.
I was gonna say,
to be clear, we're talking about innocent.
Yeah,
innocent. Yes.
So do you know, Jesse? Do you know about Trevor Bauer?
I'm not familiar.
So Trevor Bauer, baseball pitcher for the Dodgers, or he was. He won the Cy Young, which is the award you get for being the best pitcher. He was charged for about the same kind of thing, sexual assault. And as soon as these charges went out, they were made public. Trevor Bauer's contract was terminated. He went through the court case. They found Trevor Bauer completely not guilty. He had evidence to prove that the woman was actually manipulating Trevor Bauer in order to win money in a court case. So it was a scheme. But anyways, Trevor Bauer was found to be completely innocent, but yet no Major League Baseball team will sign this guy. A team in Japan signed him, but like no baseball team will touch this guy, even though he was completely found innocent. He has the talent level. So that's what I'm saying. Like, could we potentially see that happen with these NHL players?
I
Well,
think
another thing to bring up too is that all 5 of these players got charged with 1 count of something, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Michael McLeod got charged with 2 counts. If I'm not mistaken,
wow.
Amanda, can you double check on that? If
that is correct, if I
Double
remember
check.
correctly. I don't remember the exact charge. I think it was being
don't either.
accessory to a party or something like that of this incident. Amanda's probably going to be able to pull it up better than I will.
Now, the opposite of Trevor Bauer would be Deshaun Watson, right?
Okay.
So he's a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. I can't remember how it was over 20 counts he was charged with for sexual
Yeah.
assault.
Oh my
And
god.
he is currently under contract in the
Wow.
NFL.
NFL's different though. Like Ray
Dude,
Rice can drag a
NFL.
woman out by her hair in the elevator and still play the next
Now,
week. Like
as far as these 5 players, though, what really does help them, assuming they're innocent, is that there's 5 of them, and they are well-known players, or at
lined
least
up.
4 are. So the fact that it's a pack, if they are all found innocent, I think it helps that it's not just a single person.
Okay.
I'd be worried if I was if I'm not mistaken, I think Cal Foot's a fringe player.
Footy.
Michael
We call him
McLeod and
Footy.
Carter. Michael McLeod and Carter Hart obviously are regular roster players, and then Dubé is a
Dylan
regular
Dubé.
roster player as well.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So like, I'd be worried about if I was Cal Foot and we're all found innocent. I'd be worried about if he gets picked up. You know?
Yeah. Like, because he doesn't bring quite. I get what you're saying, Cass. He doesn't quite have the talent level to be like, look, this guy's got this media issue, but he's got the talent to back it up. But with
Correct.
Cal Foot, that's not quite the case. So yeah, but that would be pretty messed up for if all the other 3 players get signed, then Cal Foot doesn't. Boy, that'd be messed up.
Knowing the Bruins' track record, they're probably going to bring Formention back from the KHL
Foreman.
and sign him too after this.
I feel like Formenton was like in the Swiss league, so I'll check that real quick. But I could be wrong. Maybe
Whatever.
you're right.
He's
Maybe
not
you're
in the NHL.
Yeah,
AHL
it was
is my
it was
point,
a
you
Swiss
know.
league.
Amanda?
Even worse. He's not even good enough.
Yeah, the
McLeod
NL,
was
which is the
charged-
Swiss league. Swiss league.
So
I got it.
McLeod was charged with second offense, so he's facing the 1 count of the assault, and then the other one is 1 count of being party to the offense. So
Which is
he's
even
the
more
only one out
interesting.
of the 5.
Were they not
He's the
all
only one out of
parties
the
to
5.
it?
We don't. we're not going to get into this.
Anything
on the
from
live.
here is
it's-
going to be speculative. Anything from here
If
is
you
going
need me
be
to explain this to
speculation.
you, Brett, I'll
Yeah,
jump off. We'll talk after.
yeah.
So,
Anything from this
yeah.
point.
And it's worth mentioning that especially all of us here at Top Shelf Dusters and our sister page, Freeze the Puck Hockey, anything we're posting about this, we are well aware that the judicial system is set to have you be innocent until proven guilty. So none of us are saying they're guilty. We're just reporting what has been reported. We have some team comments and some lawyer comments. They're all essentially saying the same thing. It's we've been made aware of this. Our player was charged, and we have no further comment at this time. That's the
Well,
synopsis.
they all
there.
proclaimed, all the lawyers proclaimed the innocence of the players, which I mean you
Right.
have to if you're the lawyer.
Absolutely. But no real detail outside of that. One thing I will say, we are recording on Saturday, February 3rd. So we're all anticipating the remarks from the London, Ontario PD department on February 5th, which is also when you can get your Stadium Series jerseys. And since we edit this and release the audio version of the podcast on Tuesdays, which will be February 6th, you will find a note. If you go listen to the audio, I will make a short little segment about what the London PD said. So you'll find that here.
Thanks,
Now we can
Ethan.
move on.
Dude, Ethan is well prepped. You can tell. He had that planned out. He probably even rehearsed it before we started recording.
Now we're all going to make comments about what they said from the past. Let's talk about
So-
what they just said.
Before we move on with this, I just want to point out that Dylan Dubé, or is that how I think that's how you
You
say
got it.
Yes.
He left the team like a week or two before the other 3 players.
He did.
And I think it's funny that Calgary said he left for mental health reasons, and then all of a sudden they had to backtrack that comment, saying they had no idea when
We
he
had no
left it
idea.
was because of this issue. So
Yeah.
It looked so bad on Calgary's part.
Oh yeah.
Man. You know,
And
we
then they
made
a
a
big
lot of
splash and got a
comments.
bunch of people
Ethan
for Elias Lindholm there.
Ethan mentioned we got the prediction about Winnipeg wrong, but I'll tell you what, spot on with Calgary so far. They are not a playoff team.
But also maybe slightly more of a playoff team than Seattle. I don't know. We'll see.
I
Moving
don't know if that
on.
was part of it.
All-Star
I'm not
game.
ready.
Money,
Yeah, I'm not ready. Oh,
money.
moving on.
We've do we have videos, Jesse, for these?
I do if you want to talk.
Yeah, so
Edit-
no, there were a couple funny things. Not all of us paid attention to it, and to be honest, I only paid attention for recaps and such, because the All-Star game, I think we're all kind of over it, which we'll get to at the end of this. But let's go in order. They have the draft, then they have the skills competition, then they have the actual games. And to start with the draft, so awkward. The whole thing was so awkward, and it's actually kind of worth watching because it's funny. First and foremost, for anyone to think, hey, this is a good idea, let's have just a ton of all-star NHL players constantly with a mic in front of them and interview them and see what they're feeling. NHL players are never good in front of a camera and mic. They're awkward. They're just like, put the puck in the net, play the game. That's all I want to say.
Hockey.
So we've got several videos. That's one thing to keep note of throughout these videos. And another thing, the announcers during the draft, just awful. And then, of course, Michael Bublé. And that's going to be our first video. Michael Bublé, in case you missed it, microdosing on
around the world
mushrooms,
keeping their eye on this, including Brock
and
Besser.
I guess took a little bit too big of a microdose.
I think it was a macro dose at this point.
Yeah. So here is one of the greatest videos from the draft.
I don't know. It's just a new year and just a new self mentally, and it's been a great year for our team so far. Everyone's been working hard, and our whole coaching staff has been great. So it's been fun.
Has it been nerve-wracking though, sitting through all these picks?
Not too bad because I got Millsy and Lindy with me. So.
You got some teammates and some friends here. Your new teammate too. All right, we're going to continue this draft, and it's Team Hughes on the board in your name. We'll see if it comes up. Back to you, John.
Yeah, Team Hughes is grinding right now. I don't know if there's dissension.
It's hard.
It's controversy.
You make this pick.
They brought Besser over during the commercial break. I don't know what was said.
Am I on the clock? Are we on the clock?
You're on the clock. You need 3 more players.
Let me just say this on behalf of all
so
my Canuck brothers and sisters. This is bull. This is. Nothing that happens tonight better cost
And all
me
this was put
a
up by
Stanley Cup.
ESPN too. So
You understand me?
have a better idea on how not to make it so
I
awkward.
did my hair for 3 hours for this moment. We proudly select
I don't know why
Brock
Michael
Besser.
Bublé
Come on,
Vancouver
back.
Canucks.
the Stanley Cup.
Blades of Glory.
Wearing out a path on this ice. Back and
It's because he was tripping. He was tripping balls.
Like, that was something else. But it doesn't stop there. Then you've got, like, in a different way, very awkward. Because of the Lindholm trade, he inadvertently made Calgary a no-show at the All-Star game. So here's the video of him getting picked.
Yeah.
this could be the difference maker.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Okay. So I'm sad. He just got traded from my hometown team.
Yeah.
Calgary Flames.
You're a big Flame fan, right?
So we're gonna go with Elias Lindholm.
Yeah, he earned that this weekend wearing a Flames jersey. So now, one of those unique situations where for the first time he wears a Canuck jersey here at All-Star Weekend. Elias Lindholm, a lot of teams wanted him, and Vancouver got him, and this team got him too.
Weird. But I was telling everyone while we were watching the video, like, props to them for having the jersey ready. I mean, he had his new jersey and there he went. And then the last thing from the New Jersey jersey. The last thing from the draft is let me see, where are we?
Swayman?
For Swayman. I'm not sure what's going through his head, and this kind of goes back to don't put a mic in front of an NHL player when you don't have to. He just goes on and on about how he wasn't picked earlier and how he does like an awkward pitch as to why he should be picked next, and then goes on to say, I hope my stats don't count for this.
Goalie has been taken by each organization so far. Three of them American-born, just like Jeremy Swayman. So, Jeremy, you're sitting here. These 4 teams all need one more goalie. How nervous are you? I see a little sweat on the brow.
Yeah. I saw the 2 names I was sitting between, and I knew pretty quick I was going to be cast on an island. So I'll work hard for you guys, and hopefully we get some good luck coming our way.
You anticipated being here by yourself once you were with your fellow guys.
I did. I knew that pretty quick.
How does a goalie prepare for an all-star game like this? 3-on-3, you guys have the most pressure on it. What can you bring to one of these organizations?
I think I'm really glad that it's not counting towards my actual stats, but I'm going to do my job and hopefully help our team get a chance to win.
All right, we'll see if maybe your American brothers, the Hughes, will select you for their second goalie. David, what are they going to do?
Yeah, there has been an American theme with Team Hughes. Their last 3 picks have been Americans and some of the national team.
5 Canucks no matter
They're
what.
debating it now.
And then we can try to trade for Millsy after.
Right in there.
All right, make your pick. Yeah? Yeah, go.
Go ahead, man.
All right, from the New Jersey Devils, Jesper Bratt.
And there you go, the man who is replacing Jack Hughes at the All-Star game.
He just kind of talks about how, you know, like, I want to get picked, pick me, but also I might not play well. It was just so weird. And then right at the very end of the clip, when you see the Bublé mushroom folk talking, it's so terrible because they all have these mics on their face and you can hear them talking about like, oh, we could get this person and trade them. And it's just so bad. You've got to, if you have time, go watch the whole draft because it's pretty funny. But that takes us to the skills competition, which I didn't watch too much about this, but Amanda did.
Amanda knows all about the skills competition.
You loved all those baby blues.
I did. I sat through the entire skills competition, texting with a couple friends about it. I partially enjoyed the revamp that they did to the skills. It was kind of nice in a way, focusing on these 12 players, seeing them all compare and play. The big downfall was like the whole other half of the NHL stars that were there that literally only played 20 minutes in a game. Like, as a Canes fan, having Sebastian Aho there, literally played 20 minutes, was there for a whole weekend, and that was it. So, like, in a way, it was nice. They pared down a lot of, like, the really corny, campy, quote, skills competitions that they had. But you still had players who just did not care. Everyone has seen the videos of Kucherov. Just to the point where the whole stadium was booing him when he was doing the passing contest.
Oh, it's
top
always the
score was
passing
23 points. The top score was 23 points. Kucherov barely managed 5 points.
The effort that Kucherov gave was exactly the same of my interest in this entire event. Just did not care.
You want to
at
know,
all.
Amanda, you mentioned this, and this is the only thing I have to say about the skills competition is it's so messed up that all the players didn't get to play in that. Like, what was that was a horrible decision by them, and it's like you said, like you had your Carolina guy, and you know, I said that Reinhardt didn't get to play, so that didn't really make it interesting. But Bobrovsky got to play, but you didn't. Most teams didn't have that. Like, they didn't have a goalie in there. And if you want, and NHL fans want, they want to see their player. Like, so
who did Calgary watch then?
Lindholm.
They could have
Really,
watched Lindholm, I guess.
Even the goalies for the skills competition literally were out on the
Right.
ice for 1 minute.
Exactly,
And that
exactly.
was it. So you're expecting these goalies to come in cold, play for a minute, and then that determines who wins for them the $100,000.
Imagine if someone pulled their groin. Because they didn't stretch or they were waiting over
Oh my
100
God.
G's. Like, imagine being an owner being like, I would have gave this guy 500 G's to sit on his ass and say no.
No thanks,
Well-
I'm good.
Well, and that's the thing. Now we'll transition to the actual games, and it was something I kind of like fast watched them, and my interest grew because the team Jake Ottinger was on was the winner of the whole thing. But I started thinking in my head and arguing with myself, like, is it good or bad? Because on one hand, if you're a goalie, you're getting some 3-on-3 practice that you won't find anywhere else. It's 3-on-3 with the best players out there.
It's true.
So that's good, but you could pull your groin, especially if you're Ottinger, who has that nagging injury. And then when you've got these teams, Jesse, do you have the graphics of the teams?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the McDavid one right now.
So the McDavid one wasn't too bad. It was a mix-up of teams or players from different NHL teams. But like the Hughes team and the Matthews team, it was like the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Vancouver Canucks. And so then I start thinking, like, are you giving away your play style for 3-on-3 if you send out a line of your 3-on-3 guys?
I think they did do that.
That's not fun. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, McDavid's team, it was pretty, across the board. McKinnon's, across the board. But those other two.
The other two you wanted to see. Gotcha. Gotcha. What were they?
It was Matthews
and Hughes,
which they don't necessarily fit well on the stream.
Yeah, it doesn't look too good.
Long form.
Here's one thing to say. Ethan, you make this point a lot, and most of the time it's true that when you see a jersey get unveiled, it normally looks better on the ice. I don't think that was the case this time for these All-Star jerseys. I think the only one I liked a little bit was the Team McDavid, the white and black with the gold accent. That one looked okay, but the rest I thought they looked terrible. And the numbers and the name on the lower back, horrible.
Man.
Someone put as much effort in those jerseys as Kucherov did on his passing.
Yeah, Bieber. That was Bieber. Bieber designed it, so you could say Bieber gave no craps about the design.
Did you see the jacket he walked in with tonight?
Yeah, did you
Terrible.
not see?
So I'll jump in here as someone who watched all 3 of the games. To have the players tuck in their jerseys to their pants and not to have the team association.
Oh my god.
You had no idea who was on the ice, who was scoring.
Better know their
None of
numbers.
the graphics could keep up. Not going to know the numbers for all the players for across 32 teams. Don't have that bandwidth.
Jesse, we'll put a bow on this and then move on to 2025-26. But can you cue up the Justin Bieber video? And while he does that, here's the Team Hughes lineup. Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, Nikita Kucherov, Thatcher Demko, Kyle Connor, Brady Tkachuk, Jasper Bratt, Cam Talbot, Brock Boster, JT Miller, Frank Petrano. And then Team Matthews was Austin Matthews, Morgan Riley, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, Jake Ottinger, Clayton Keller, Matthew Barzal, Igor Shesterkin, Philip Forsberg, Alex DeBrincat, and Vincent Trocheck. Which, by the way, Alex DeBrincat has the most punchable face. I have to say that.
Jeez, never heard of
him. Wasn't it voted that it was Nick Cousins?
It was Nick Cousins, but that was I did that. They did that poll.
Weird.
And this is I guess is a decent percentage, but that was 25% of NHL players.
Gosh. Now, this video that Jesse has pulled up, so this is in the middle of the first game that Team Matthews played, or it was before their game. They're in the locker room, and you've got 3 big brain commentators talking about this clip they're showing. And I'm almost certain they are mistaking Mitch Marner for Justin Bieber, in the sense of saying that Justin Bieber might suit up and play in the All-Star game, which
Well, if I'm not
also makes no
mistaken,
sense.
I think Justin Bieber was out there for warm-ups with
For
them.
warm-ups, right? But these guys, like PK Subban's one of the guys. Does he not realize no, Justin Bieber's not going to be in the lineup for the game? And then it's Mitch Marner in the video.
That's
if you wanna play it.
insane. I'm working on it. I'm sorry. I don't have it ready right
I'm pretty sure they're talking about Mitch Marner because he's the only guy standing in the frame. I don't know, just silly.
That is deplorable, quite frankly. I don't understand how that could be
Scotiabank Arena.
The whole thing's
Hockey
awkward.
fans from around the world keep it
I
up.
don't know. I
They
think
look
I'm
the
happy.
same, I guess. Mitchell Marner and Justin
least-
Bieber have the same face.
At least we don't have to worry about this next year.
Thank
That's
God.
true.
Thank God. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't get it up.
Well, take my
Oh,
word
that
for
sounds
it.
like your
They
problem.
said it. They said
Sponsored by.
This
Oh my God.
Yes, and then just a quick little thing. This was the 8th year that they've done the 3-on-3 format for the game portion.
And that part's
But
fun.
this was the first. Well, yeah, that part's great. I love 3-on-3 hockey, but this was the first year that any of the games ever went to a shootout, and we had 2 of them this year to watch.
Very fun.
Also made it a little bit fun.
Who wants to take 2025?
Yeah, so there's going to be a bunch of changes that are going to be happening next year. As mentioned, the All-Star Game is not going to happen, and they are going to be doing a 4-nation face-off. So it's going to be Canada, US, Sweden, and Finland. It's going to be an in-season tournament that's going to consist of 7 games played during a 9-day period from February 12th through the 20th. There's going to be 2 practice days, and it's going to be held in 2 cities in North America that have not been named, one in Canada and one in the United States. The players
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh,
To say it's Montreal and Boston, just for the record, but not confirmed.
I was gonna say it's not too surprising they picked these 4 nations. I pulled up the IIHF rankings real quick, and actually I found out that Sweden is ranked below not only Russia, who is the team I was going to bring up, but they're ranked below Germany, which is kind of crazy. But anyways, I think the NHL picking these 4 just kind of avoids the Russia controversy, because that's I don't know when that's going to go away, but it's definitely not going to go away anytime soon. So they're kind of just like, hey, we're going to pick 4 of the top nations, and Sweden does have better representation in the NHL than Germany, even with Germany being technically ranked higher. So even though I would say Russia is a better, Russia probably would perform better than Sweden and maybe even Finland. I think they probably picked the right 4 teams, right 4 nations for this.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't do a 6 and there's a lot of Czech players in the NHL. And especially if one of the cities is Boston, it's kind of a shame David Pastrnak is not going to play. He did make comments. I couldn't find the screenshot that I had. Essentially, they said they were sad and frustrated about it, that they didn't have other nations besides just the 4.
They could have put Czechia and maybe Switzerland. I mean, Switzerland's actually ranked above Czechia, Cass, just above. But anyways, yeah, I think they could have done 6, but then you get then the Russia thing becomes even more awkward, because Russia's currently ranked 3rd best in the world. And so if you got 6 teams, then Russia's not in there, but they would never put Russia in there.
Yeah, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But if you look just from a hockey perspective, forget the geopolitical aspect of it, Russia would have made it a lot better. Team Russia,
Agreed. Agreed.
But your hands are tied on that. And I do wonder, do you guys think this 4-nation tournament was part of the negotiations, which is leading us to why there's no All-Star game in 2026? In that the NHL and IIHF agreed that the NHL will participate in the Olympics for 2026 and 2030.
So
I think it does help hype it up a little bit.
Yeah, before we go too into that, there was an article that I read that said that it's kind of like a preliminary appetizer, if you will, for the Olympics. So I think that it's just trying to get people hype about it a little bit more, which I don't know anybody who isn't excited about the NHL players going to the Olympics. We've been talking about it for almost a decade now. We wanted to see that. So I'm pretty excited that that's going to be happening.
Now, I don't know. I can't really wrap my head around what kind of things are talked about in this, because it's an agreement between the NHL and IIHF, and that agreement, in 2022, I think it was, yeah, there was talk that like NHL players could play, and then right at the last minute, the rug was pulled out from everyone, and it was like, nope, they're not. So there's some kind of negotiation that happens as to when it's okay and when it's not. And so I'm just wondering if this four-nation tournament was the NHL's way of getting some things back from the IIHF, which then made the NHL be like, okay, we're good.
Well, you hear a lot of players being like the Oliver Bjorkstrand, who have plans for vacation and then get pulled in because of the All-Star game. So at least the Russians, the Czechs, all that, they
don't have to worry about it
next year. They don't have to worry about it. They can get the Airbnb and not have to worry about getting sat down. From what I understand, before the next NHL season starts next year, each of the 4 teams has to have 6 players already previously chosen, and then further down the line, their rosters will be solidified.
Can you explain that more, Cass? When do they have to have these 6 players picked?
I believe it's before the start of the NHL season next year.
Before the season even starts. Wow.
Before the season. So, like, obviously, you're going to have your Connor McDavid, your Connor Bedard. You're going to have, he's Russian, right?
No, Finnish.
Oh.
He is Finnish. We've had this conversation before.
Fucked me up. So, but, like, obviously, the U.S., you're going to have probably 2 Hughes brothers, the 2 Kachuk brothers. There's 4 right there, and Hellebuck and
Jakey Otter.
Yep, or Swayman. We'll see.
Jakey Otter.
Dude, what a
that'll be
3 golden tandem, man. Swayman, Ottinger, and Hellebuck. Oh my gosh. USA goaltending.
It's good.
USA's got gold already. Calling it now.
I would love to actually deep dive into some of how these rosters will look, maybe over the summer during the
offseason. That's what we'll talk about that for sure. That's going to be a great off-season episode.
I do wonder if that picking 6 players before the season starts, is that to level the playing field? Like, let's say Connor Bedard's on a list, right? What if he gets injured?
I think it's more so when they do their marketing and they could have like a face of the team kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Because you can assume McDavid's on there, but like let's make sure
he's on there.
It's gonna be Team Connor,
and maybe it gives older players like a Crosby, who might not be on the Olympic team in 2026, a chance to get into the best on best before maybe they don't make it. I'm not saying Crosby won't make the 2026 Winter Olympic team. I'm just saying
Pavelski,
maybe like a Marchand or a Pavelski or something. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, any other comments about the All-Star game? We were going to talk about pros and cons. I think we all are in agreement that if we could have our way, we would have our players rest.
We definitely did, and I'm pretty sure only one of us watched it, Amanda, right? So
yeah,
I watched some of it.
I watched 0 of it. Sorry. I know I should have.
Want to say about the 2026 Olympics is IIHF is responsible for all insurance, travel, and transportation expenses for the players to go over.
So that's probably part of that.
So that was a big thing that the NHL needed the IIHF to cover.
Italy's NHL team, not NHL team, Italy's hockey team ranked 18th in the world right now in hockey.
There you go.
So they're going to get whacked so hard.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like one of the last Olympics, John Tavares broke his leg or something, and he was on the island.
It was a pretty bad injury. Yeah.
Amanda, are you able to look that up? I'm pretty sure I remember that happening with Team Canada, obviously. But
this wouldn't be the Olympics are nothing like an All-Star game. These guys go all out.
Correct. You're add-on for your country, of course.
Exactly.
But this was one of the biggest
Winter Olympics.
Okay, so it was. Yeah, this was one of the biggest red X's on Gary Bettman's resume is. He didn't have best on best, and now he's out of that eye.
Well,
for
they had been. He just
guess
took it
we-
out for a while. Well, we missed like 2 Olympics, right? That was it.
Yeah, they didn't. The last one they were in was 2014, so they weren't able to reach a deal in 2018.
They missed 2018 or 2022.
And then 2022, the COVID pandemic stopped all that fun stuff. So
Right. So he's only really missed 2 because they've been in the Olympics, I think, all the seasons before that.
Well,
anyways,
we'll see what happens. I mean, it sounds like a done deal. So more
It's exciting.
Olympic hockey. Yeah, now it's worth watching again.
I just hope this 4-nation face-off is affordable, especially if it is in Boston. I would love to go to one of these games, but I hope it's not going to be like a $500 ticket because
it's probably going to be pretty expensive.
Probably going to be pretty expensive.
Now to wrap up, let's wrap up the whole thing. Put a pretty bow on it with Cass's question of the week.
Yeah, so last week, question I proposed was the goalie on the best contract this year. And as always, we'll start with ladies first. Jesse, no, just kidding. Amanda, you can go first.
That's not always first. You did me last week.
Oh, I did Amanda last week.
Oh wait, you
said,
did. Sorry,
Brady's
you're
here.
right. You're right. Sorry, never mind.
It was me
Say it
because
again, I'm what?
Cass
You're
warned
right.
me ahead.
That's right.
I did, yeah.
Don't get used to it, Cass. This was one that I finally could not pick a home team player because the Canes just don't have that goaltender prospect anywhere near. I actually went with Demko. I think at $2.5 million, that is a steal. You're looking at a guy whose save percentage is .920, which puts him currently 6th best in the NHL. With Hill having the best at .936, so not even that far off from being the best. And again, at $2.5 million, when you're looking at goalies like Brett, like Bobrovsky, that are like 10 million, where you're just like, that is hefty.
You said Demko, right, Amanda?
Yes.
So I have to fact check our fact checker. Demko is making $5 million. He's a $5 million cap hit on the Canucks.
Like I said, there we go. Don't know what I was looking at then. Even at $5 million, I will take him any day of the week.
So Kaz, if you don't mind, I'll go next because I also picked Demko even at the $5 million. And one thing that Amanda didn't mention about that, and this is a big reason why I picked him, is there's a lot of starting goaltenders that are at around $5 million, like Igor and Saros. Like they're both around that same thing, but they only have this season and next season, and then their contract ends. So with Demko, he's still got this season and then 2 seasons after it on that $5 million deal. And he's already playing at a Vezina level, and he's probably only going to get better. So I say, with the reasons that Amanda mentioned, also add on the fact that he's still got 2 seasons after this at only a $5 million cap hit.
And on
How
top
did he
of
play
that,
last year though?
wasn't good.
Last year, he didn't do great. 3.16,
But the
.901.
team wasn't doing well.
The team was
either.
bad.
And on top of that, too, like you mentioned, UC Saros and you mentioned Igor Shesterkin, and both of those guys this season have not been what they have been in the past. Shesterkin, ever since the Vezina, has kind of fallen off, and Saros just doesn't have a team in front of him to perform well. So yeah, I agree with you there. I think that he's the best in that entire category.
Ethan, who do you got?
Go for it.
You know, I've really
He's already
tried to
switching.
not
There we
pick.
go.
I've tried so hard to switch, but I can't.
I'll just
I'm
put
gonna
Otter
go. No, Joey Decord.
I was gonna say
Joey
Joey Decord
Decord?
too. Yeah.
Again, you mofo. My player.
I was gonna say the same
I'm
thing.
going next. I'm going first.
I
next week.
did not want to pick a Seattle Kraken, but put him on any other team. Oh my gosh, like he would be lights out. $1.2 million contract. He's got a let's see, I just had it pulled up. He's got a .921 save percentage, 15 wins in his 34 games played. His only problem is it took him so long. It took Seattle so long to put him in. He's the guy.
I do agree with that, and he was my choice as well, and now I have to choose someone else, so I hate you so much.
You don't have to. I went with Demko. Even
Brett,
though
why don't you choose someone else so I can make a graphic?
All right,
well,
I'll pick someone else.
Overall, I think Thatcher Demko has the best contract as a whole, by far, of any of these people that we've named, right? Joey Decord was going to be my choice because I'm just trying to be different. But also, I think, Alexander Georgiev is getting paid well under that $5 million. He's at $3.4 million. He's only got one season left on this contract, so that's kind of a lump there. But he's played very well for Colorado, being the guy who's primarily playing the handful of games. Last season he played 62 games. This season he's played 41 games. So he's at a 2.91 save percentage. He's under 90 save percentage. He's .898. But when you're starting 41 games and you're going to get lit up some nights, and that's going to happen. I think Georgiev has a really great contract.
So, guess if you want, I found someone else I can go with. Okay. So just scrolling through, trying to be a little bit quick about it, but let's go with Stuart Skinner. He started off this season real slow, but there's no doubt that he's definitely bounced back as part of this Oilers winning streak. And I think that's the Stuart Skinner we're probably going to see most of the time. I mean, the whole Oilers team was playing bad at the beginning of the season. I don't know if you can put it all on Skinner. And his
they were going back and forth with their goalies, and now he's always playing.
Right, and he's at 2.6. All right, 2.6, and same as Demko. He's not only making that this season, but 2 seasons after that. So Stuart Skinner, pretty darn good contract if he can play to the level that he's been playing at during this win streak.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
I want Cass to give his stuff, but I do have, I think, what would be a better backup pick. But I won't say it because it might be on your list.
Okay.
So yeah, let Cass go. Cass, you go.
Well, I kind of went. I don't really look at how much they have left on their contract. I'm kind of looking almost for the best bargain is the way I kind of look at it. Not necessarily the way I worded it. And looking at some of these numbers, like there are some really good backups here. You got Jonathan Quick, you got Charlie Lindgren, you got Connor Ingram. And honestly, I'm going to go with Connor Ingram. Like, he's kept Arizona kind of relevant. He's on a, $1.95 million a year contract this year, next year, and the year after. He's got a .261 goals against average and a .916 save percentage, too. And playing with that team in front of him. So, he's the one I'm going with.
I'm glad I let you go first.
Because that's who you were going to say.
I was going to say Connor Ingram would be my next pick. But yeah,
I just like to incorporate the years because I don't know that. Like I even talked about that with the trade, right? That's where my mind goes, is thinking about the future, and that's just how it works. Doesn't mean everyone else do it that way. That's just how I think about it.
Well, it's a good way to think about it too, because if you think about it, if the cap goes up, they're still getting paid whatever amount they signed for at that time, So theoretically, if the cap goes up and they had a contract that they were going to sign that year, they would be getting paid more. So I think that's a good way to look at it.
Like, part of me Connor Hellebuyck's on a pretty good contract right now, but he got signed to that extension where it's like $7 million.
Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so Mark.
Just
a couple other guys.
Just to recap, Amanda's got Demko, Brett's got Skinner, Ethan's got Decord. Again, he stole my guy. Bastard. Yes, he's got Georgiev, and I have Ingram.
Georgiev, yes.
That one, yep. Okay, so for next week.
I'm ready.
Worst contract for a forward, with the caveat, I cannot say Jonathan Huberdeau.
I was going to say Jonathan
What the
Huberdeau,
heck?
so there you go.
All right, I'll find the second worst contract. How about that?
We all know that Huberdeau is the first worst contract in the league, right?
Yes,
Come on, there's no way.
Yes, absolutely. That's almost too easy.
So we will all
So
decide
second
our
worst contract.
second worst contract for a forward on next week's episode of Top Shelf Dusters.
Amanda, do you want to sign us out? No. Jesse, sign us out.
And that does it for us this week on Top Shelf Dusters. Thank you so much for listening and watching. You can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can't watch us there, but you should follow us anyway. My name is Jesse.
This is Brett.
This is Cass.
This is Ethan.
And this is Amanda.
We will catch you all next week. Have a good one, everybody.
Music for this episode was written, recorded, and performed by Robbie Padavano at Robbie Padavano on Instagram.